So most of us study success. Very few of us study failure. It's failure that's actually the better teacher. And they believed that they would surmount this failure and come out unscathed. That tells me of belief. And these are priceless lessons. The next one, in another paragraph, he goes on to say, I was part of the transformation. This is a fantastic leadership quality that makes I the single most unimportant word in the English vocabulary and makes we or the team the most important word. So part of larger group of people, no individual took credit for himself or herself. That's a priceless attribute that one saw all through, which includes people in the government. There were very few press conferences. Almost nobody spoke anywhere. It was left to the board that did what it did. It became a global case study in handling a crisis. Most companies are loath to invest in crisis managers before a crisis manifests. Most companies even shudder to imagine a crisis and predict a future of doom, because then it scares you and it might force you to prepare and cost money. So they don't look at it. Now this was a crisis which fell on us, and they were placed at the forefront of handling this crisis. So that was spectacular, and the manner in which it was conducted. We then go on to the next one, which is a little simpler actually. It's been spoken about. The conversation within the board which said that we should not take any compensation. Today, nobody does anything for free. Nobody. Here you have amongst the 6 doyens of Indian industry who gave away their personal time and came to resurrect a company which would change India's image worldwide. That was priceless nationalism at its best. And may your tribe increase, sir. The next one is, in the first meeting, it's the first meeting. And none of them probably had even heard of the crisis or been through any documents. They say that 3 priorities became very clear. This is clarity at its best. This is why you hire a specialist, and this is why you hire a good man. This is why you create a good team. So it says restore fiscal sanity, ensure customers are assured of continuity and smooth delivery of services, engage with associates. So all the 3 pillars on which a company stands were looked at and considered to be repaired. And that is exactly what they began doing. There are so many flags. Your book is full of leadership lessons, sir. For the first time in 25 years career, I began working as a corporate honcho. So he never said, I've been a chartered accountant till now. It's me and my clerks and assistants. I deal with documents. Here, you're dealing with human beings. Completely different cup of tea, willing to accept a challenge. Talks about management by walking around. Permit me to change that phrase, sir. It's not management by walking around. It's leadership by walking around. When you go around and talk to associates and team members and tell them you're doing an awesome job. I saw you staying up late yesterday and doing extra work. You make the system work. Tell that driver you did a fantastic job. Tell that lady who gives tea, you make the best tea in the world. Filter coffee maybe in the case. But that is what walking around does. Next one. Priority was to separate the good from the bad. So, Mr. Bhaskar mentioned about a good man or a good set of people probably doing a bad thing. So there was nothing wrong with the company. I mean, the team members did everything they did to the best of their ability. They did it well. We were a global brand. It would have been terrible for them. They would have carried a sense of guilt and shame even. To tell them that nothing is wrong with you all, you keep your head down and keep doing the good work and we will turn this around, is very important to segregate the good from the bad. And that is something they wanted to do as a term of reference. So I think that was priceless. I'm not doing this for the world to know. This was, of course, echoed by Mr. Manoharan. But I'm sure he speaks for the rest of the people who are on the board. Nobody was doing it for anybody else to know. Nobody was doing it for a pat on the back. He says, I'm doing this for my nation. Please listen very carefully. He didn't say I'm doing it for my country. He used the word nation instead of country. They are completely different. For my profession and for my personal satisfaction, this talks of pride in your own work, no matter what you do in life. Amir Khan made it popular much later, but I think, sir, we've got to give you the credit of saying what? All is well. Is there in the book on page 98. So all is well is not just a great, line conjured up for a movie. To continuously believe all is well and tell your team all is well is fantastic. And then it talks of how we should not succumb to the pressures. Focus on the purpose, irrespective of how badly you may get treated. For a chartered accountant of that standing, and for a group of people who are, the absolute top hierarchy of Indian industry, to actually go and plead is not a phrase that is probably right, but to try and convince clients and customers to get them to hold on to their, extant orders and not transfer their businesses elsewhere would not have been an easy task, because all of us have a stature and an ego. To be able to do it for the sake of the job and the company and the country was priceless. That's another leadership trait. Actually, we can create a leadership book out of this. Every evening, as they drew towards the middle innings or the let's say post the slog overs, as the cricketing reference were to be, when stability was required, they started something called a good news bulletin, where everybody started encouraging even the lower leadership to speak to the rest of the team members on what good has happened today in Satyam worldwide. And that became very popular and people started feeling good about themselves. I have a lot of friends who started their work with Satyam when it began and who very recently retired from Tech Mahindra. They've been through this nightmare all through and they are so very happy about it. You are all part of it, has been spoken about. Plan for small celebrations. What do leaders do? Sir, you're wearing an awesome pink striped shirt. Today is your birthday. I'll take one flower from this bouquet and give it to you and say happy birthday. So the team will rally around. Somebody will say happy birthday. I will ask him, your mother was unwell last week. I am sure she's better now. What can I do to help? How may I help? These are all little celebrations. This is what leaders do. I'm sure they did all of it. Can't all be captured in a book. So celebrate the occasions. Those are important. The board was doing a transformational job, not a transactional one. It's a very powerful statement. We all understand the difference between transformation and transaction. So this was transformational. I love the one about Plan B. This is that bit where, they're waiting for the auction to happen on the day of the auction. And they're all waiting with anticipated breath, that we have no idea who turned up for the auction, who has made a bid. So somebody asks him, Manoharan, what would happen if nobody turns up for the bid? So he says, Plan B. There was no Plan B. But the belief that somebody would turn up, and the belief that if it doesn't work, something else will work, that tells me of the confidence that was displayed. And the last line of the book actually, what ought to have been carried out over 4 years was done in a period of 98 days. I'm not counting the last day, and I'm not counting the day he received the phone call. So it's actually 98 days. So ladies and gentlemen, in whichever leadership spectrum that you wish to see this case through, the government of India through, the 6-member board through, Mr. Manoharan through, they're all worthy of emulation. And I will fail, if I don't do this. I'll request his young daughter who's in the audience, who's also a chartered accountant, to please stand. So, sweetheart, you may go and watch a movie. You can, you can go to a concert and listen to your favorite rock star. You can do whatever you wish. When you wish to see a genuine leader, look at your dad. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, General. Thank you for sharing and highlighting very interesting lines from the book. Dr. Anbuthambi, Head Strategy, L&T EduTech. May I have the AB, please?
Dr. Anbuthambi is the Head of Strategy at L&T EduTech, Lesson Tubro Limited. He has over 2 decades of experience in education, skill development, and ITES. He holds a bachelor's in computer application, a business management degree from XLRI Jamshedpur, and a PhD in management, specializing in employability skills. An accomplished author of the book, The Post-Pandemic Graduate and India in 2047, he has a strong background in bridging academia and industry. A recipient of the Power to Empower 2013 award from NSDC, Dr. Anbuthambi serves on academic councils of several institutions across India.
May I call upon Dr. Anbuthambi to lead the conversation with the author, Mr. T.N. Manoharan, Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt, and Lieutenant General A. Arun.
Thank you, Satish. I think for good evening to one and all. Thank you very much, Satish, for that introduction. I think being a conversation, I can sit down. I think, no, you witnessed 2 short and sweet keynotes of this year, I would say. So it is so short, but still there are tons of messages to take from both of their messages. I think, I feel very scared now what to question them. So I thought, because, when I saw their type of preparation they've made, in fact, both of them have read the entire book. So I had attended a lot of conference, book launch ceremony, as a practice they will say, no, I'm yet to read the book. I am just going through the first chapter. These are some of the statements. But here, in fact, if you look at the preparation of our General Arun sir, can you just lift your book, sir? Look at the bookmarks, like IIT JEE preparing kid. So he's done such a kind of work. Then sir said, no, I have not kept the bookmark, but I have noted everywhere. Bhaskar Bhatt. So they've done so much of, see, look at this. You should give a clap to Mr. Bhaskar as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I had an opportunity to attend the first launch when it happened in Delhi. Witnessed the same launch when they did it with all the other board members, including Kiran Karnik, Deepak Parekh and Tarun Das. I really witnessed the kind of emotions that they carried when they came for this launch. And one of the gentlemen said, no, it shouldn't stop with the book, it should go to the colleges. So we took permission from the authors, both of the authors, along with another author, Pattabhiram. We went to ICFI, in fact, one of the director of ICFI is here, Dr. Sudhagar. We went to them and we told them to write a case. So ICFI wrote a case based on this book. We ran a case contest across India, and almost 120 B schools participated to find out what could have been an alternative strategy. There was a strategy put in place. It was revealed in this book. 100 days lesson is here. And outcome is what we are seeing today's Tech Mahindra. If at all there is an alternate strategy, what could have been? The best of the brilliant minds from all the IIMs, XLRIs participated. And it concluded. In fact, during the conclusion, we had the CFO of Tech Mahindra coming there. The end day. And it was concluded there is no alternative. This was the best effective strategy this group implemented. A big round of applause to both T.N. Manoharan and Pattabhiram for bringing out this book, and the other board members who made this happen. So I will jump to a few quick questions, because since most of the questions you already answered in your keynote, I will just go outside of this book. Now, my first question is to both, same question to both Mr. Bhaskar and General Arun. On that horror day, on Jan 9, 2009, 7th Jan, morning by 8:30 when this news splashed, Ramalinga Raju's confession, and when the stock market is about to crash. You are a corporate leader, you are a corporate leader. What was running in your mind? What was actually running in your mind, personally?
Well, to be honest, at 7, whatever, I probably read about it about 9 o'clock. So, quick reaction was, one was negative, both were negative, but it was like, we were and continue to be a very strong brick and mortar company. Okay. And I had huge suspicion about all the software guys, and I had huge envy because they had all the, exports and not taxed, and they were making huge margins, and they didn't have to struggle, looking at 18 million customers, customer by customer, and selling them watches and jewelry and all that. And then we end up with low margins. I said, it's not right. It's not right. And then when this happened, it almost, to be honest, serves them right kind of thing. Serves them right. I'm sure they are hollow. They don't run their companies well. When a new employee joins any of these software companies, there's no HR guy who's meeting them. They take pride in the fact that everything is on the monitor. Imagine a monitor telling you rules of engagement. But leave that aside. This thing was, I had one guru on that board. Guru as in 2002, I attended a management program in TMTC, and Krishna Palepu was the first case was Korea Stock Exchange, okay, and he taught that case. And my takeaway from that was a lot of corporate governance. And then I said, how could he have allowed this? That was actually my first reaction. How could he have allowed this? And very intelligent, very accomplished, very committed. Actually, only after I read the book, I realized that he voiced his concern, was against it, but this few good men bit, when they all get together, they take a bad decision. Okay. That's what the book told me. All of them objected, all of them, but collectively, they said yes to the acquisition of Metas. Of course, the wrongdoing couldn't have been righted, but
it could have been managed. Okay, now I'll ask General Arun the same question with an added thing. On the same day in the evening, one TV channel said, "Who is next?" Now it's Satyam, who is next? There was 1 hour debate on that. So what's your initial reaction on that day? What was running in your mind? Not the reaction, what was running in your mind?
So it was also a little personal for me because I knew the man. I grew up in Secunderabad. I had been to the company many times. I have attended family gatherings at the company. I have seen the way this man used to respond to his employees who were in need of help. That was the human part, which is also there in the book. And that was outstanding. Typically, we see, there is no black and white. We see people the way we see them. So for me, it was disbelief that it's not possible. By then, the details of the letter. I was also overseas at that time, and I was doing a senior strategy course in Australia, which had representation from 28 countries. And there were people who later on retired as foreign ministers of their countries on this educational program. So all of them used it to beat me with a stick and said, "This is the India that you so glowingly spoke about till now, and this is who you really are, and you're a set of thieves." And so it kind of hurt. The other issue was, I'm a soldier, so in the army we see things mostly in black and white. If it's not white, it has to be black. So therefore, my heart was wanting, typically, blood on the street, if you wish. Am I even now happy with the court's decision? Personally, that's another discussion. But the fact is that I'm not, as are many other people. The fact is there was a good man, great company, did outstanding for its employees and for the shareholders at that point in time. committed a series of errors. It was not one. And it's beautifully written in the book. It isn't one. If it was one and corrected, then it's a mistake, a blip everybody does. But it was one repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. And then this thing about getting off the tiger, I know, on the street, people will tell you, who asked you to ride the tiger? Quite simply. So you get onto the tiger, then you either will get bitten or you will not know how to get off, which is what he's written. So, great people, not just good people, take horrendously incorrect decisions. So the requirement of integrity, corporate governance cannot be run only by the Companies Act. Because the Companies Act is interpreted and translated by human beings at every place. So we have a structure for all of this, which we will ask Mr. Manoharan to talk about. So that's what I felt.
Okay.
Terrible, angry, sad, disappointed.
Okay. So now I'll move to TNM. So with that kind of emotions, when all the stakeholders are there, how did you take up this, sir? When somebody said, no, you should take up this and try and revive. Why and what motivated you?
Yeah. This, when the call came from the Corporate Affairs Ministry, that your name has been shortlisted in the Prime Minister's office. So, in principle approval, we want you to consider, in case the board is constituted, whether you can be a special director. I did not blink an eyelid, because being son of a freedom fighter, maybe I was waiting for an opportunity to serve the nation. And therefore, I immediately said, of course, I will join. And the reason was multifold. One, of course, to serve the nation. The second was, whether we like it or not, in such a scandal, especially accounting scandal, fudging of financial statements, manipulation. You know, in student days, we used to debate as chartered accounting students whether accountancy is an art or a science. In Satyam, I learned it could be a fiction, because many figures were
So you have to now tell back your students.
Yeah. And in such a scenario, it is bound, a question will be asked, what were the auditors doing? And for so long. And when the gravity of the situation, figures were, magnitude was phenomenal. So maybe the damage is going to be done for the profession as well. And belonging to the same profession, if I can get the opportunity to remedy the situation, mitigate the crisis, maybe I can redeem that to a great extent.
Okay.
Do a compensating act.
Excellent, sir.
That was the reason.
Okay, great, sir. Now I'll ask one more question to you. If at all this entire book is taken as a movie tomorrow, and if at all you have to take one role to play, apart from TNM's role, which role you will take? Option is right from Ramalinga Raju to the new Tech Mahindra's Mahindra.
Since you have asked it on a lighter note, let me answer first on a lighter note. I do not think if I act in that movie, it will run.
No. But imagine your daughter is a producer.
No,
she wants you to act.
Actually, current days, I think the villain role is more popular.
Okay.
The audience are sympathetic and fall in love with the villain. So I would prefer Ramalinga Raju role.
No. No, let me ask this question to audience. If there is a chance to act, how many of you will act in the role of Ramalinga Raju? Just raise your hand. Good, yeah? So others want to act in some other role. Okay. Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you. No, I'll ask a question to...
but I would suggest better to invite Rajinikanth to do the rescue role.
Okay.
Because generally his fans believe that anything is possible if Rajini does it. So the Satyam story also will become a reality in their minds. Okay. And of course, Arvind Swamy can be the villain.
Okay, sir. Sir, now to Mr. Bhaskar. Now, what are your thoughts on the scale and complexity of these issues? This specific issue. In the day one, what did you think about the scale and complexity?
Well, I think first of all, it was not just scale, because scale in a single vertical, for example, you can deal with, because you go to the root and the entire thing gets. Here it was multiple acts of violation across many things, One is the books of accounts, and then the fixed deposits, which were shown as cash. Then there was forgery of documents. So multiple things, and across geographies. The biggest was, it was NASDAQ. It was listed on NASDAQ. So, India's reputation. So the complexity was huge. And, I don't know in a scale of 1 to 10 or what you're asking, but it was very, very large. If I were to take the equivalent, the transformation of Air India is like that.
Okay. Good.
Very complex. Very complex. We fly overseas. We've inherited, it's worse than a lemon. And so, it's going to take years, but we can't forget. So in almost like the Satyam story, people think only the Tata Group can transform Air India, and it is true. We are working hard at it. I think on that scale, I consider.
So if you could go back in time, give one piece of advice to these board members on the day one, what it would be?
My God. Not the likes of Kiran Karnik and...
Because you're a corporate leader, then also you were in the top position. If at all you were asked for advice.
Yeah, I would say, I think Mr. Manoharan has spoken about it, which is, if I were to close my eyes and not know, and only know that cheating has occurred, and that this company has 53,000 employees, I would only say, keep the faith in the people. Get the people to solve this problem.
Okay.
How to do it, all that will come later.
Excellent.
Keep the faith in the people. That's what I believe in, and I think that's what I would do.
Great, sir. Great. Now to General Arun. What according to you should have been the most crucial leadership skill of this board on the revival?
So, I have spoken at length on the leadership attributes, both by the country, the board, and by Mr. Manoharan. But if there is one great leadership attribute they exemplified, not captured in any management or leadership book, it's 2 words: do more. They just did more. So he was part salesman, he was part president HR, he was part talking to people to retain people. This book. Why should I tell you about this book? Please buy it. Buy it. I'm supposed to do that also. In a book launch, I was told you're supposed to sell the book. Now I've told you half truths in this book, the rest half you'll find outside. But there are stories of him speaking to Satyam leaders worldwide. Please understand that in India, it was still easy to probably slip back into office and slip out home. Somebody who was wearing a Satyam I-card outside, across the Pacific or across the Atlantic, across the Indian Ocean, in Australia, in New Zealand, in the US, would have taken a huge bit of a, backlash. All kinds of backlash, mostly about the integrity of the Indian, which is very difficult to handle. So he's done that. He's spoken to vendors. He has spoken to suppliers. He has spoken to banks. What he has not spoken about are the difficulties that they went through to create this miracle, which is another testament to their leadership skills. So you asked me for one, I've given you 5.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's great. So I'll know, because of lack of time, I will come to the last question to TNM again. Now I'll ask 2 questions, but you can answer it as one. As he said, what was one of the most toughest thing to handle in this? The second part of the question is, what do you think is the long-lasting impact this has created for the IT industry?
Yeah. Actually, the toughest thing was, while the government appointed us, wanted us to resurrect the company, most of the challenges came from government departments. Income tax department on one side wanted the company to pay taxes in hundreds of crores, while the monthly salary of Satyam, Tech Mahindra, Satyam was 500 crores, and there was no money in the bank account. Outstanding vendors' payments were 2,000 crores. but the collection due was 1,700 crores, out of which 300 and odd crores were fictitious, not real. So income tax department, on one hand, attached the assets of the Satyam. On another hand, to raise short-term funds, we needed to pledge the documents of the properties, equitable mortgage. For that, this attachment has to be lifted. Similarly, PF, ESI authorities said, you have not remitted the contributions. TDS was not remitted to the tax department. So on that, we'll file a FIR in the police station against you.
Yeah.
We said all this happened before. They said it doesn't matter. Now you are the director.
In charge.
No.
So is there any FIR against you, sir?
Huh?
FIR is there still?
No, actually, we prevented it. That's where, like he said, we spoke to vendors, suppliers, customers, employees. We also spoke to government departments to prevent the damage. But, ultimately, however much we tried to persuade them and prevent them, finally they said one sentence. Sir, I have to do my job. Otherwise, I'll be prosecuted. Somebody will question me 5 years later, why you did not do this? And that time, none of you are going to come to my rescue. This is the standard language. So that was a problematic scenario. But fortunately, my experience of having been in practice as a chartered accountant, meeting all, in all cases, department officials helped. So I went and negotiated and said, we'll make a payment of 50 lakhs down payment and secured a convenient installments.
Okay.
And with that, they lifted the attachments, and I could do the equitable mortgage and raise 300 crores from Bank of Baroda, 300 crores from IDBI Bank, and that's how we could do it. Okay. And to your second question, even in global financial crisis, America was almost collapsing. They had to legislate to, infuse funds to rescue the economy. And India stood tall. Yeah, Sarbanes-Oxley Act came, all that. So India stood tall. And here is a crisis, unlike Lehman Brothers or AAG, which were allowed to collapse. We resurrected Satyam. So IT industry, it was so prominent, you cannot let it down because millions of investors would have lost the money, lost faith in India. See, one generation of India gave theosophy to humanity. Another generation built monuments, places of worship. Yet another generation brought in agricultural revolution. One more generation, industrial revolution. The last generation of the 12th century, 20th century brought in technological revolution, including Satyam. And current generation, in 21st century, we are witnessing digital revolution. But what is required, making use of the Satyam episode, because when Satyam happened, even Wall Street Journal in New York said, America should learn from India as to how to handle a corporate crisis.
Give a big round of applause.
We cannot let it go
that's pride to India.
Yeah. So it is high time that we all collectively contribute, like Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt also was mentioning, and General was also echoing, that it is the time where India is galloping to become a developed nation. By 2047, we are going to be a developed nation. But for that, we need to bring in a moral revolution, probity in public life, where we are able to build. See, India is not just known as India externally across the world. If you see any hoarding of tourism department, India is known as incredible India. Because no other country can boast of having mountains, valleys, deserts, and rivers, backwaters, cruise, snow, every you name it, it is there. Phenomenal monuments belonging to all religions are there. So with that kind of a potential, incredible India, we all should make use of this experience to build a credible economy. A credible economy which is unassailable, which is built on ethos, values, traditions. And that is the biggest lesson. Not only IT industry, all of us will have to learn from this. If we do that, maybe 18th, 19th century belong to Europe, 20th century belong to USA, 21st century must belong to India. and we will make it
Thank
happen.
you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's a big message for the future India. It is big message for the youth. So during the keynote, General Arun said he has a question to the author. You said you have a question to TNM.
So I've written it here in the first page itself. Will another Satyam occur?
I think both of them can answer. First with TNM, then I will request Bhaskar.
So I also need to get Mr. Bhaskar to respond to this because he represents. So in multiple audiences across the country, when I show the word trust and tell the audience, give me the name of a company that comes to mind, they take the name of the Tatas without exception. Some odd cases, a young mother would have said Johnson & Johnson, wo band ho gaya aajkal. Somebody would have said IDEX, who's just used IDEX, but it's generally Tatas. So I'll require you to also say, sir, what is it that the Tatas have done differently, not just to create this impression or perception, but to also sustain it over so many years? So, but we'll start with you, sir. Will another Satyam occur?
I'll answer it a little macro level philosophically. You cannot legislate morality, but you can regulate the conduct. Actually, good people don't need laws to tell them what to do, what not to do. And whatever laws you bring in, for certain kind of bad people, they will know how to circumvent the law or manipulate the law. That's why when ministry withdrew the company law bill, which was pending in the parliament after Satyam said, they withdrew the bill saying we need more amendments and asked me inputs on what amendments to be done. No doubt I gave few suggestions, but with a kind of an add-on preamble to it, saying don't have knee-jerk reaction or don't overdo things by making the law rigid. Even Sarbanes-Oxley Act, when it came, many companies opted to unlist from the New York NASDAQ because cost of compliance was phenomenally going up. So they had to dilute SOX over a period of time. So that's the cost. See, an anecdote, if Anbuthambi time permits, there was a train going at a considerable speed. It derailed from the track, ran into a paddy field and managed to stop after injuring few hundreds of passengers. The train driver was summoned by a panel constituted for inquiry. They asked him what happened. He said, I was going at a considerable pace. Suddenly an intruder came on the track. The panel got wild. Don't you have common sense? As an experienced driver, life of one intruder is not important. You should have run over him to save the passengers you were carrying with you. Driver got equally wild. He said, with 27 years of experience, do you think I don't know that? But I wanted to run over the intruder, but he started running into the paddy field. What can I do? Actually, this is what happens when something wrong done, the legislators start focusing on the violator and tries to amend the law, thinking if that amendment is done, the whole thing becomes clear and no further scams. Actually, after SOX came, much bigger scams occurred. That's why I said you cannot legislate morality, but you can regulate the conduct. But for every scam that happens, if you have knee-jerk reaction, that is not going to resolve. Best solution to this, in my view, is expeditious investigation, stringent punishment.
You can clap.
Just
because
sorry,
there are a lot of auditors also. I told them to clap, sir.
No, it's yours. Okay, I'll read out this last line of the book, which says, therefore, quick investigation, expeditious trial, and stringent punishment would prove a more effective deterrent than tighter laws, which become an inconvenience for everyone.
Actually, sorry, I'm taking only one more minute. Mr. Madoff fraud happened 6 months before Satya. 65 billion of cheating. Investigation was concluded in 6 months. Trial was completed in another 6 months. July 2009. It happened in June 2008. July 2009, verdict was pronounced. And the judge said 150 years of imprisonment. Mr. Madoff, who was in accused box, looked at the judge and said, "My lord, I am already 70 years old." Judge looked at him, smiled and said, "Do your best. Whatever possible." Because everybody knew, including the judge, it is not for that Madoff. It is the message that you send to all others who want to do similar frauds in the society, perpetrate such economic crimes. So that, while I said America should learn from India, we should also pick up the best practices from elsewhere and then build a credible economy in the incredible India.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bhaskar, your views.
Yeah, I think he said everything. I would say clearly, I think Satyam kind of, problems will keep occurring. I'll tell you, my reasoning is a little different, which is, this race to 2047 developed nation, everything is happening in the ecosystem to enable us to grow, the 3 trillion going to 5 trillion and 8 trillion and 10 trillion economy. That race versus the regulation of, because everybody is wanting, what is it called? Single window, ease of doing business, we are rated low. So that it is racing ahead. Have you seen a serial called Jam Tara? I don't know how many of you have seen this thing called Jam Tara. Now, Jam Tara is an excellent example of how Indians can game. Jam Tara is a district in Jharkhand, one of the most backward. Kids who have not even passed 10th will scam on the phone people who are PhD and below. And they'll take 5,000 rupees to 5 lakh rupees on the phone. Okay. Now, I'm taking this example only because UPI and the whole ease of transfer of money has become so fantastic and we are celebrating. It is the right thing. UPI is going to become global soon. But the greed and all the ease with which you can scam is only growing. So, even in the most regulated country, USA, Enron happened, Global Crossing happened, and it keeps Madoff happened. So, I would say that the more there has to be a bleed of the toxicity in the system. The greed and bleed, it's only when we bleed can we get cured. And it is not going to stop. The second reason is the startup culture, and I have great respect for all these youngsters who have great ideas, but they are in a hurry. And they are honest, they don't want to do wrong, but they end up doing wrong because of bland, and they get blind, whatever. They think their technology will win them everything, valuation, all that, And in that process, certain things get forgotten, and he knows it best. So, 2 reasons is what I'm saying. This exceptional performance of the economy and the race, I don't think we should stop it. We should, as he said, and I think the Tata Group handling the Tata Finance case. Good example. You asked me, Ratan Tata came out and told all depositors, everybody we will stand by. Okay, whatever it was, 240 crores or something, we'll stand by and pay. But we will not spare Dilip Painse. FIR, we went to jail, whatever, So, for employees, we will not spare you. At the same time, our customers, the trust that the group stands for, we have to stand by that. But these are very visible examples. General Saab, you asked, how is it done? I think it's a 150-year-old behavior. I think things are not done by reading the Tata Code of Conduct. You read the Tata Code of Conduct, but living by the Tata Code of Conduct, I believe happens because you see your predecessors, you read about the stories,
then there are people, leaders in the company who you look up to, and then the rest of the people learn. So while there are systems and processes, all the ethics committee, all that is there, but ethics committee does not ensure morality. That's all I'm saying. So I think I would only say from my 41 years, it's just that I behaved in a certain way, and probably my behavior had some impact on those within the company.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think you should all give a big round of applause to this entire elite panel. Satish, you can come now. But I think there's a big reason why we should read this book from what finally Mr. Bhaskar made a comment. Maybe we will all be involved in some more future revivals in the future. So it's better we read and learn everything, whatever Mr. TNM has written, and let's take the learnings forward. Not only to us, also to the students at homes and in our institutions. Thank you very much once again to the panelists for giving this wonderful session.
Thank you, Dr.